a best-selling author, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com, former Navy SEAL, patriot, very humble guy, but a lot of smart folks in the Pentagon said, look, we can't tell you the stuff we know. Just get Matt Bracken on. That's very accurate. And, I mean, here we are. You were on months ago saying, watch it become exponential. It is becoming exponential. We'll go over 3 or 4 attacks a day now with them saying they don't know why the guy cut the priest's head off, even though he pledged allegiance to ISIS, changing the name from Ali to David on one of the bombers, saying a Muslim was blown up by a bomb when the Muslim blows himself up. I mean, this is beyond 1984 level disinformation. What is the establishment doing? What phase is this? Matt Bracken.
Well, I would call this maybe the great treason. We're seeing something that I've never could have imagined before in Europe and in America. Sometimes I think of this 1930s example. Imagine if FDR had ordered J. Edgar Hoover to scrub all mentions of Nazis, Gestapo, Himmler, Hitler, and drop all investigations involving Germans. And any time that there was a German involved in espionage, it had to go through a special German-American Bund liaison that would be provided to the FBI. And then imagine the FBI agreeing to all these terms, purging, scrubbing, et cetera. Well, that's actually happened. So at the Department of Homeland Security, Customs, Border Patrol, FBI, they're in the tank. Over in Europe, we can see the terrible math for the police. In Munich, one shooter with a Glock 17, although there were reports of long guns, a lot of times these are, like in Dallas, like in Baton Rouge, people are making concurrent reports from different directions. They get picked up as multiple shooters. So we really don't know. But assuming it was that one guy with a Glock 17 and 300 rounds of ammo, allegedly he bought that on the internet, I doubt it. In Europe, please. Somebody handed him a Glock 17 and 300 rounds. That's the key, is the somebody that handed it to him. But it took all 3,000 police and military that they had. They were bringing people in from other German states. 3,000 to react to one pistol shooter who was dead. Or they found out was dead. They just didn't find his body for a few hours while this panic went on. Subway system closed down. People leaving the city like it was under attack from aliens. Now imagine when a Mumbai with multiple shooters, or a Paris Bataclan with multiple teams of shooters roaming around, shooting up a place, then hiding their guns, fleeing with the refugees, and then rinse, repeat. We saw in Dallas and Baton Rouge, the police can't even protect themselves. They have to call in more police with long guns because the initially responding police become overwhelmed. What happens in this country when we have multiple shooters like the Washington snipers of 10, 15 years ago? Imagine when that's happening every day and the guys aren't suicidal. They just get in their car and drive somewhere else. So we're going to have a big problem, and local law enforcement is going to be in the crosshairs. They're the initial responders, but I'm telling you that there's a huge division and split right now between the feds and local. As we've seen under Obama, the feds are trying to take over all the local law enforcement by having these DOJ bogus investigations. And now the UN Strong Cities Initiative that Oakley's going to run them. Have you seen the footage out of Germany where the Islamist just beats up the police for no reason, and they can't even take the guy down? I mean, that just shows the type of social workers they're hiring over there, because, boy, the German police... In an airport. And the guy had a satchel. The guy's got a satchel swinging around, which could have been, 4 pounds of TATP or Semtex.
And the Germans will cover it up because that's their order.
Right next to this guy, you'll see in the background running interference are these women in burqas. Now, this is a guy that you need to shoot immediately. That's a deadly force authorized based on that guy having a bag, which could have detonated.
Absolutely. A guy starts attacking you in an airport there for no reason, blast him.
And even if he's got nothing in there but a Quran, what he's doing is and we've seen this over and over again, the flying imams after 9/11. Probing. And today they don't have to make a report back to headquarters. The report is the YouTube video which gets shared all around the world. Like, the one guy can tie up 3,000 police officers. You think that other people aren't learning that lesson? So yeah, we're just in the beginning stages of the tech.
So right now they're just probing and getting intelligence.
Right, and using social media to share it. So it's dispersed. There's no central nest. Like, if we only found the headquarters in Raqqa and bombed it, that wouldn't make any difference. It's like trying to kill a jellyfish swarm by shooting 10
and
random
our own supposed government is bringing them in. I'm not going to belabor this, but it takes money to win a war. We don't have George Soros' $25 billion. We don't get taxpayer money like MSNBC got $3 billion, or more, actually. Part of that $5 billion went down to them, to NBC. We don't get $450 million a year like NPR and then beg for money every week. Once a year, we have a super mega sale, and we also have a donate buttons to help us kind of gauge if we can hire some more crew or continue running operations like we are. I really want to grow in the face of this. In fact, that's why I've gotten in the position of not even really taking profit at this point in the year, because sure, I need to have some money put back. I need to be able to be secure. I need to be able to handle any unforeseen things like lawsuits or whatever that don't really happen, but knock on wood. Literally, is there any wood around here? But you couldn't put your money towards a more important fight. I don't think anybody can deny that now, how we are affecting the globalists, controlling the narrative at the RNC and now DNC, how InfoWars is really leading the way on how to effectively take on the New World Order. And it's amazing. Our guests, our listeners, this entire family is incredible. So that's why we try to give you the very best water filtration systems for your shower, for the water you drink, for the lowest prices that really just cut all the garbage out or bring it down to non-detectable levels. That's why we have the very widest selection of non-GMO, open-pollinated heirloom seeds. It's why we've got the huge selection of books and films and Patriot apparel to meet like-minded people and to spread the word and to promote the culture of liberty. It's why we have the very best solar panel control systems and solar panel systems out there. Again, I mean, we've gone out and found the very best units for the very lowest prices. It's what we're doing, and we have 20 to 40% off basically everything in the store. 40% off Brain Force, an amazing nootropic. We've got 30% off Survival Shield, Nascent Iodine X2. We have 20 to 40% off on the storable food that's only back ordered a week or so. It's going to be so fresh. They're producing it right now. We had to really twist their arms to do it. We're powered by My Patriot Supply. It's InfoWars Select. We have their full spectrum of food at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com. We have 30% off Liver Shield, 20% off all the Patriot apparel, 20% off all survival seeds, 30% off Super Male and Super Female Vitality, 30% off Survival Shield X2, 20% off all Pro Pure water filters, 40% off Brain Force, free shipping on orders of $50 or more, 10% off additionally on top of everything when you sign up for an item on auto ship. Pick 15 days, 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you want, so you don't have to go back and reorder. Because I believe in you reap what you sow. So everything we promote is a really good value, super high quality, whether it's vitamin mineral fusion or the joint formula and bone formula, or whether it's colloidal silver or the great natural sleep aid knockout or ozonated olive oil for your skin. It's all there. Oxy powder to flush out your guts. It's all there. Prostagard. I mean, one thing like saw palmetto of this dose is like $19.95. This thing has like 8 or 9 ingredients of the same dose level of everything known to be good for your prostate for $22. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Super good values, super organic, highest testing levels. That's what we're committed to. Plus, we know we're a target of the Food and Drug Administration, so that also helps. But we would be this clean, this perfect, quite frankly, without it, because we know we've got a lot of folks shooting at us and don't want us to be able to self-fund our operation. Okay, going back to our guest, Matt Bracken, author, researcher, former Navy SEAL, a man warning for the last few years of the Islamic tattoo, a man warning just here 3-4 months ago that he believed going into this fall, working with Western governments, globalists, that they were going to escalate the jihad attacks from 1 a month to 1 a week to 1 a day to 4 or 5 a day. I now have a stack here of 4 or 5 attacks the last day. And, I mean, a new level. I think he called it the total treason or the absolute treason, where they changed the names from Ali and the Islamic name to David Jones. I mean, literally, David, where they say they're not Islamic as they scream Allah Akbar and blow people up. Or they say they're the victim of a bombing. Or they cut a priest head off and they said at first, oh, a crazy man cut someone's throat. So this is all happening. He just talked about probing. So he's been right so far. Matt Bracken, what do you expect to happen next?
Well, there's going to be a continuing escalation of these because it's like a jellyfish swarm. They're sending out the pheromones like a termite nest. It's not command top-down command structure. It's more like pheromones or jellyfish. So people see these things and say, "Well, I can be a Nike jihadist." They call them Nike jihadists because you just get into your head, just do it. You can grab a knife and just run amok. Just do it. You get your 72 virgins. Now, an important fact is...
By the way, I want to tell these dumbasses something. You're not going to get 72 virgins. Plus, whoever wrote that should know who wants virgins anyway. Sorry, go ahead.
But they believe it. But if they believe it, and they've grown up in some, pestilential third world hellhole, and they see fantasy pornos on, a tablet somewhere, and they're told this is what you're going to have the moment you blow yourself up forever, and you're just some dumbass inbred 1,400 years of first cousin consanguinity, inbreeding. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of these Nike terrorists, whether it's with a knife and axe, mixing up some TATP. That Central Park bomb that blew off a kid from a tourist's foot, they said a few weeks later it was definitely TATP. The way I read that is that was a chemist going online and practicing. So you leave it, it's very unstable. Concussion when it's at the right dryness, stepping on it would detonate it. So you put it on a trail where somebody's going to hop off of a stone onto the trail, and sure enough, it worked. So I would assume that chemist is now in mass production and also teaching other chemists. In the Islamic State, they held the University of Mosul, Iraq, for a long time in their Manhattan project there, while they had research laboratories, petrochemical industry level research laboratories, teaching chemists to make TATP wholesale and to teach other chemists.
And teaching folks how to nerve gas dogs.
And anything. But what we're going to see next is we're going to see the media continuing to run interference, and we're going to see our treasonous fools at the top, like Jay Johnson of DHS. I have to say, at this point in 2016, with people screaming Allahu Akbar every day and wiping people out, wiping out infidels, anybody in a position of authority or in the media who is promoting the mindset that there's nothing to see here is either a covert convert, whereas the Muslims say a revert, because they believe everybody is really an Islamist underneath, just trying to get out. So people like Jay Johnson, they're either a convert and they're just lying using taqiyya, or they're already making their dhimmi deal. A dhimmi is that, a status of a second-class citizen.
Now, by the way, I'd read about this years ago. I'm confirming this really goes on, but I did more research once you brought it up, and everything clicked. That's why Merkel and Hollande and all these people, you're absolutely right. And actually, I went to Islamic sites, they're bragging that, look, they're doing as we say to get the next phase of money and payoffs. They've got to let them kill us and then have them take it over. So Obama and everybody is showing their good dhimmis. And now that the mayor is Islamic in London, he's openly saying all this now, letting folks know that we are his slave. Go ahead.
The dhimmi, a non-Muslim dhimmi has to pay the jizya tax. And for these people in the process of committing the great treason, their bride price, their dhimmi tax, their jizya, is to betray us while looking at us in the eye and saying, I have no idea, like Jay Johnson at the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing a couple weeks ago, waving his hand and saying, I have no idea about this purge of all the Islamic words. I mean, like I said, imagine FDR telling Hoover and the FBI to purge everything about the Gestapo, SS, and Himmler and Nazi National Socialism, and to have no investigations of Germans unless the German-American Bund was there to make sure it was not prejudiced against Germans.
And let's be clear for folks that don't know history. Tell folks who the Bund is, flesh this out. People forget that the government's been ordered not to say Islamic in terror. Now Twitter's censoring it. Explain this.
People need to read Phil Haney's book, See Something, Say Nothing. He was, basically shut out and purged within the Department of Homeland Security, where he was a subject matter expert. And eventually, by 2009, they just scrubbed all the books, everything that the FBI uses, all of their investigations. That's why they say, oh, it's another lone wolf. He was radicalized on the internet. See, the internet is a safe boogeyman. And of course, the solution is...
Sure, free speech is bad. Free speech is bad. That's who's to blame.
But it's really the mosques. This is the level of treason. I call FBI now, I call them faking bogus investigations. They used to say their other name was fidelity, bravery, integrity. Now it's faking bogus investigations.
And now the mosques are testing that they're allowed to preach and push this. That's why it's escalating.
And we are allowing radical imams, quote unquote imam, which would be like sending some Gestapo agent and saying, oh, he's a member of the, the Nordic, what was the Germanic Odin religion. Yeah, he's an Odin priest, and we need to send him around to all the German clubs all over America in 1930s. And if you say anything about it, you're a Germanophobe. Well, right now we have these radical imams, these Muslim Brotherhood terrorists. They're going from mosque to mosque, passing out trunkloads of Wahhabist textbooks that preach murder and jihad. They are passing them out. They're funding these Wahhabi madrasa schools where the kids are just going to be...
Let's not forget the imam in Florida who even has a TV show on broadcast TV a month before was saying, murder the homosexuals. It's a favor to them. Kill them.
And it's so embarrassing to see the FBI today roll over like this. I can't imagine J. Edgar Hoover, the old FBI agents that I knew, 20, 30 years ago, they must just be tearing their hair out to see their bureau destroyed and made like a lackey, made a punk for these Muslim Brotherhood imam terrorists that are going from mosque to mosque. But the FBI is forbidden to go anywhere near the mosque without calling the liaisons from these Muslim Brotherhood front groups that are now running and directing our policy. I mean, it's Huma Ahmadin, it's the whole, it would take all day to list all of these Muslim Brotherhood actors that are now running our foreign policy.
So let me ask you this question. If it's exponential, which it is now, you predicted that when this wasn't happening, just, a couple of years ago, and then 6 months ago, and 3 months ago, and a month ago on the show, if it's now gone from monthly to weekly to daily to every few hours, what's happening? What comes next?
Well, in Europe, we're very fortunate here in America because we get the war game out, the worst case scenario, because it's unfolding in Europe. In Sweden, for example, the police spend 90% of their effort cracking down on right-wing extremists that are complaining about the Islamic takeover. They don't go to the mosques and throw people out. So we can see in this country, from the top down, the suborned and sold out, took a dive, disgraceful FBI, they are going to continue with the towing the line that we're bringing in refugees, and anybody that's against the refugees, that's who we're going to investigate as a hater, not the people that are bringing in these. Imagine this is like the refugee thing is a two-pronged attack. Currently, right here and now, it's biological warfare. When you read about a half dozen people with drug-resistant tuberculosis being dropped into some medium-sized town in your average flyover.
That's biowarfare. Anybody else flying with that, it's a felony if you know you have it. 22%, Associated Press admits, of the Minnesota folks that have been brought in have TB.
Right, and so this is biowar that's right now. So these kids, come end of August, they'll be in middle school next to your son or daughter, coughing. That's biowar. And in the long term, these kids are going to grow up like the Tsarnaev brothers. They're not going to ever assimilate. Their religion orders them not to assimilate. So when you see these dimmy politicians saying, we haven't done a good enough job of assimilating our Muslims, excuse me, Muslims have a book which commands them not to assimilate, not to have non-Muslim friends, to lie to us, and always to advance Sharia. See, the real division within Islam is not moderate or non-moderate Muslims, moderate or radical. It's a division between the tactics of slow stealth hijra. We're just going to take it over like the Muslim Brotherhood has taken over our government. We're just going to bring in refugees until there's nothing you can do. At the other end are the violent jihadists that believe in shooting and blowing people up and driving over people.
Sure, what do you make of the caller earlier calling from London saying, oh, these are all false flag attacks?
Yeah, there's some department somewhere where they've got all these actors. It's bogus. But like you said, the false flag is at the top. It's the people that open the gate. If Farmer Jones has a hen house and he catches a fox in the woods and then he sticks the fox into the hen house,
he's part of it.
We don't blame the fox. we blame Farmer Jones. And then if Farmer Jones says, I have no idea how that fox got in there, then you show a tape of him and he's, videotaped him. You've got him busted.
That's my next question. How do the
then
political
he says,
elite...
oh, it didn't happen.
This is clearly a plan, Matt. This is clearly a plan. It's all accurate. You're right. How does the political elite think they're going to get away with it? Because they've announced martial law with troops on the streets in Germany, but for the right-wingers. At
this point, the big show, like Brexit was a few weeks ago, is Trump going ahead by clear margins over Hillary. Hillary last night looked like that 1984 Apple commercial wearing her red Mal jacket. It was scary as hell. That we're going to see, I think, if Trump goes ahead in the polls, assassination attempts to the level of airplanes blowing out of the sky. By what I mean is the stakes will be so high that the people that would put a bomb on a plane would be willing to have everybody else on the plane die. Make no mistake about it. At the level of Hillary Clinton, imagine if Trump wins and we've got Attorney General, Department of Justice being run by Giuliani, Andrew McCarthy, people like that. Hillary Clinton can wind up in prison. It's 10 years for each one of those top secret documents. She left them on purpose.
So she's a cornered rat, and absolutely, I think they're going to try to kill Trump or stage a false flag where somebody tries to assassinate Hillary.
Or we don't have an election because the security situation is so tenuous. If we have Mohammed and Malvo type snipers driving around shooting people middle end of October, there won't be an election. The country will be on a crazy lockdown.
Based on the video you released where Putin is warning the media about we're close to war.
Talking about Putin?
I've been researching and I've just been noticing that NATO is kind of instigating the fights over in Eastern Europe.
I'm glad you noticed. NATO's all along Russia's border. They've been supporting jihadis. They overthrew the Ukrainian government. I'm not saying Russia's perfect, but Russia is not expanding. The globalists are starting a war with them. Please continue.
Well, it's not even just that. It's the buildup. There's 4 battalions that are getting sent, and Canada is heading one, but the other ones they're all going to the border.
Yes, they're doing war games and massing troops on the border, and proxy troops and mercenaries have been battling Russians in the eastern part of Ukraine for a long time. Let's get Matt. Let's get the rest of your take on that, caller. Go ahead.
Okay, well, yeah, it's that along with the missile silos and everything that are going to be ready to fire upon Russia whenever they want. They say it's for defense, but it's more.
Sure, I know, but Putin came out a month ago and said this is in danger of nuclear war. We move missiles onto your border. What would you do, Mr. Bracken?
Well, it's part of the same fabric, I think, to foment a crisis that's so bad that there would be blowback that would be believable and acceptable that we would perceive as being part of the larger war. For example, if the grid went down, if the internet went out, and when the internet came back on, assuming it ever came back on, people like you, me, and some others might not be around anymore. That's sort of the Turkish Reichstag coup, but instead of a coup, you have a war that would be so devastating that we would just believe that, hey, the internet went down.
I mean, here's the issue. Russia, compared to us more and more, is like promoting freedom because we're run by such authoritarians. What's the authoritarian, because you're a soldier, smart guy, what is the calculus on just starting a war with Russia out of nothing and trying to hype it in the media and having the heads of NATO and generals say, we need lots of dead Russians on Fox News?
Yeah, I was actually a Russian studies major, so it's kind of interesting for me in that way. I've always followed very closely, going back through Russian history. I tie this directly to the DNC email scandal. You can see how the globalists, their immediate go-to boogeyman now is Russia. This is important to me more for as a matter of messaging and how the media can all take the same talking point. I saw something.
It's okay that Hillary stole the primaries because the Russians don't like it.
The Russian, but it wasn't North Koreans like Sony. Right away it was Russians. Now, we have heard only a little bit of scan information that could actually point really that way. One of the things was something real simple, like, well, one of the hackers was using a Cyrillic language keyboard. In my world, that would mean not Russia, because at this level, unless it was just a Russian hacker, like in his mother's apartment. But I mean, if it's Russian government level, then the false trail would be led through a Chinese keyboard or a North Korean keyboard.
Sure, but I mean, my issue is, who cares if Russia did it? They're exposing carbon taxes and Hillary stealing elections.
Well, but here's the thing. Russia would have less motive than anybody. So to me, this is like a false victim targeting thing by the globalists, because if the Russians, I assume that they have all of the 30,000 emails, the top security stuff included, that was on her server, along with the Iranians, the Chinese, and anonymous hackers, they would want Hillary to be in the White House so that they could blackmail her. So they could dangle some damning top secret SCI, SAP program stuff.
That's a good
and
point.
say, this is in Drudge Report tomorrow, unless, you know, we do this deal. But as far as a war with Russia goes, I think that once again, it's a question of trying to ride the tiger and calibrate just when you're going to jump off. A plan to ride a tiger is not the same as riding the tiger. A plan to lead up to war with Russia, but not have a war, to just foment a crisis that'll be part of the background for why there's no election this fall is more likely. Now, a lot of wars begin where they thought it would just be a bluff. You know, we're just going to bluff them and they're going to back down. And that's how wars sometimes begin. But remember, both of these sides have nuclear weapons.
No, you're right. I mean, doesn't this, Matt, historically, though, show that we really have an out-of-control elite? I mean, this is all very reckless.
Well, the media to me is becoming a function. They're functioning actors now. The media that, for example, are still parroting Islamophobia and the biggest
total willing accomplices. Stay there. Let's talk about that, because never has the media been so in sync with the corrupt elements that have hijacked our government. Unfortunately, his analysis more and more is coming true, and his warning is so important. I know we have loaded phones here from Bosnia and from all over the place. You'll get to talk to William Binney, obviously, when he is joining us. But just finishing up with Matt Bracken, clearly we have an insane elite, Matt, and I just hope that the Pentagon and others that have been more sane, like General Flynn, exposing that Obama and others were backing ISIS and al-Qaeda, I hope that somehow we're able to derail what's happening. I'm not lionizing the Pentagon, but they seem to be really resisting a lot of this insanity because they don't want to, you know, have their grandkids killed or kids killed, I guess. They're not psychopaths, but the actual elite running things, these globalists, these socialists, these George Soros types are very messianic. I mean, Soros has given interviews where he says he believes he's basically the Christ. These people are insane, and I don't see how we stop them, because even though they're frauds, even though they're collapsing, they're in power. And I agree with you. I think they're going to try to kill Trump. I think if Trump gets into power, before he actually gets into office, they might pull something big. I mean, we're seeing things happen in this country that have never happened before, and it seems like the establishment doesn't care what we know or what we do. They're acting like they know something we don't know, Matt.
Yeah, I think that the train is heading for a bridge that's not there, possibly, and that's what they know. And that they've got a plan for a siding, but the rest of us go over the edge. Then they declare it an emergency, and how unfortunate it is. As far as things that we can do, I think that, you know, I despair of waiting for any generals or senior FBI. SES is what they call Senior Executive Service. Those are the civilian generals that run all of these agencies. I'm waiting for any resignations other than Phil Haney. I really haven't seen any, you know, whistleblowers, which is really a shame. So we have to accept the fact that FBI, DHS, they've been suborned. They're being run by Muslim Brotherhood, either knowingly or as useful idiots. But where it's going to matter is these refugees. The refugees are a battlefront. The refugees are part of this war. They're a fulcrum of this war. If your town accepts 100 Muslim men called children, but they could be 30 and they're saying that they're 16. If your town accepts them, your town is screwed. Your town just got 100 Hitler Youth, for example, going back to my 1930s analogy. So we need to put pressure on law enforcement at the local and state level not to cooperate with the feds, who have clearly been suborned by team tyranny. So if, for example, if you're in local law enforcement and you're tasked with providing coverage at a demonstration where the FBI is going to come into town with a half dozen guys, and they're expecting 50 local law enforcement to be their muscle, refuse to cooperate. The people that know when these secret flights are coming in at night, getting loaded onto the big buses, taken to rehabilitated, bankrupt hotels, which are now being used as secret refugee transit centers. The people that know this information need to leak it. if you're not part of team tyranny and team treason, then you need to at least be calling Alex Jones.
That's right, because if you don't
Drudge,
leak it or resist it, you're actually on that team. And
you'll be treated that way.
Here's my final point. That's it. Our own media and the European media, now the name is Ali. They change it to David, and then they give him an English last name as well, surname. They will not say when it's an Allah Akbar or pledge to ISIS. It's unified information warfare that you wouldn't just expect your own government to use. It's such black propaganda that you would only expect to be used by an authoritarian state. And then it's used against us. So what I'm saying is, I've never seen them take the gloves off like this and put brass knuckles on. This is clearly a military operation. There's got to be 100 times the refugees they're saying coming in. My alma mater has 231, and that's just a high school in Austin. All the other high schools have it. All the other sub-schools have it. Thousands per school, total from first grade to 12th. I mean, they say 400 in Texas total. Hell, it's 400 at 2 high schools. I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah, and the media that are acting as the mouthpiece, as the Goebbels, arm of it, the media are now players. The media that is selling this invasion by saying, oh, I had no idea. Look, if you have no idea in 2016, then you're either a useful idiot or you're a witting traitor. And we are going to start holding people to account, because we can all see when they're screaming Allah Akbar, when they're killing priests or driving people, kids over in a truck, when they're screaming Allah Akbar, we know what it is. And anybody who's at this point saying, we don't know what it is, we're looking for their motives, you are a traitor. FBI, please wake up, throw some cold water, take a cold shower. Think about J. Edgar Hoover in the 1930s taking a dive like you cowards, you disgraceful, dishonorable cowards that the FBI have done. I expect so much more from you. Covering up for the Muslim Brotherhood, looking the other way at these terror mosques. Then Orlando happens and you pretend you had no idea. It's disgraceful and dishonorable. And we're going to hold you to account. At Nuremberg after the last World War, I was just following orders, got people hanged. If you think your excuse is going to be, I was just following orders, that's going to get you hanged. If there's some super 9/11 that happens, there will be an accounting. And it's
Matt, I hear you, and I'm not defending the FBI and others, but in San Bernardino 2 years before, they were tracking the husband and wife going back to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan for training. They started a criminal Justice Department investigation on the 2 agents for investigating those 2, and they are all over them, prosecuting them and firing them if they do. I think it really falls to us, the American people, even more than the FBI, for the fact that we're so passive, it's allowed this to happen. I mean, we got William Benning about to come on, who's the paramount.
I just want to ask the FBI agents, is your paycheck and your pension worth more than your honor, your integrity, and your country? Look in the mirror, Mr. FBI man. Fidelity, bravery, integrity. Is it integrity or is it just paycheck and pension? Seriously.
Well, I mean, I tell you, it'd be one thing if they were taking us over a couple generations. They appear to be doing this very, very quickly. And so we need to just do this for your pension. I mean, there's not going to be any future here. Obviously, things are getting so cataclysmic. Matt Bracken, thank you so much for the time. The website's excellent. The essays, the books, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. We'll talk to you soon.
We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
It's not about keeping guns out of the hands of law-abiding Americans, and I'm sick and tired of people lying to the American people.
We can't have a totally armed society.
We're not proposing a gun registration system. We're proposing background checks for criminals.
In the spirit of gun control, will you disarm your entire security team?
We'll get right back to you.
You'll get back to me?
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand?
The answer to 1984 is 1776.